So before I start my speech today, I'd like to show you a quick video. So I really wish I could see all your faces because I'm sure they looked a lot like mine when I saw this video a few years ago. Confusion, a little bit of interest, what is that mushroom doing? These are the kinds of questions that led me to explore more about the technology that was in that video and that I'll be talking to you about today, which is called modular synthesis. So modular synthesis is using modular technology to alter sound and create instruments or new sounds. Now, modular technology is very clunky, there's a lot of jargon, it's very technical. I'm going to avoid all of that today, and we're going to focus on the creative applications of the technology rather than the actual technical how it works. I will be referring to it as modular throughout the course of this presentation because I believe it is just easier to articulate, smooth things along. We'll go into a little bit of terminology that we need to know about this before we get started. So, modular is any kind of technology that uses building blocks to function. So the opposite of that would be, let's say, a bike. When you get a bike, that bike is already made. All the parts that go on the bike have already been designed and put together in such a way that you can't change. However, if I was to give you a modular bike, you would get a bunch of modules. The modules for this bike being the wheels, the handlebars, the spokes, all of the building blocks that make up that bike, and then you could create whatever you wanted to. You could create a 5-wheeled bike that carried 3 people. You could make a bike that went 4 different ways. You have total creative control over what kind of technology that you are creating here. So to translate that to music, what I'd like to first do is talk about what a sound is, how sound is modulated or processed to create new sounds, and then how we can take those instruments and sounds that we've created and then use the modular environment to put special effects on those as well. So a sound is a wave. So when I speak, it creates pressure differences that then are perceived by other people as a noise. So if you think of sound as a traveler that's going from point A to point B, when someone goes on a journey, they are potentially going to come back different than when they left, depending on the kind of journey. So if you just go across the street to get some food, you probably won't come back much different than the way you left. But if you go on a 3-month-long backpacking trip or a religious sabbatical, you're probably going to be much different than when you left home. And sound, and the way sound is processed, is much the same way. So I want you to think of yourself as a tour guide for your sound. If the sound is a traveler, you're a tour guide. Your job is to tell the sound what paths to take, where to go, how long to stay there. You want to make it interesting, but you can also make it simple. It is totally up to you, the experience that you create for this sound. So if we look at a basic map that you might show a sound, or that a sound might follow, it would look a lot like this. Now ignore all of the technical terms, and just pay attention to the fact that the sound starts from when you play the key, and it goes in a predetermined path to the end or the speaker. Think of it sort of like a cruise ship or a cruise ship itinerary, where you don't get to decide the places that you go, but you do get to decide what you do when you get to those places. This is the limiting aspect of a pre-built synthesizer, which looks like this. So you've got your keys, you can play your notes, and you can only control certain things that are dependent on how the synthesizer is built or constructed. Now if you look at a map of a modular synthesizer, it's much larger. Now again, ignore all the technicality and just focus on how many different blocks or locations there are. If the map for a regular synthesizer is like a cruise ship itinerary, this is a geographic map. So this map won't tell you where to go or how to get there, but it will tell you all of the different places that you can go and all of the different options you have for directions that you can send your sound in. Now, this is what a modular synthesizer can look like. They can be the size of an entire room, or they can be much smaller, something that fits on your desk. Now, this is the beauty of this system is that you have the ability to decide how big or how small you want it, and you have the ability to completely determine how powerful it can be. Now, I'm sure some of you are saying, I already play an instrument. I don't want to learn how to do this. Or, I want to learn an instrument, but I don't want to learn how to make something that complicated. I'd rather just play a guitar. So for you, I would say that that is great, because my favorite application of this technology is actually processing sounds that already exist, because it is very interesting to be able to hear the different kinds of things you can make. So for example, when a guitar has effects, usually they're on a pedal board, kind of like this. These are all different effects. Each one does one thing, and the guitar player will press it with his foot to cause an effect on his guitar. However, this is somewhat limited in the same way that the other synthesizer, or the cruise ship metaphor, is limited, and that you don't get to decide necessarily what path your sound takes. You can only use one effect at a time. If you use a modular synthesizer, you can completely hand design the special effects that your sound is processed through. So here's an example of someone doing so with a guitar. So I'm sure what you heard there was not what you're expecting, i.e. it was not a guitar. And that is what is so exciting and fun about these modular technologies, is that they allow you to take a sound and turn it into something completely different. But you're still able to use the technical skills that you have with the instrument that you already know to play with the sound in an even more complex way. So now that we've talked about some of the applications of this technology, I would like to give you some resources to look into it further if you're so interested. I'll put links to these in the description of the video. So Learning Modular is a website written by someone who's been in the industry since the 70s. It has paid and free courses demonstrating some of the simplest and most complex synthesis concepts. This circle is VCV Rack. It is an online digital emulator or simulator that has digital versions of existing modules so that you can learn how to operate modular technology and modular synths without having to buy anything. And then Modular Grid is if you do want to actually purchase yourself your own modular setup. It has thousands of modules that are in existence along with technical specifications and price ranges and where to buy them. And it allows you to set those up in hypothetical grids so that you can design your system ahead of time. So what I hope that this demonstration has shown you is that modular synthesis is one of the most powerful creative tools for creating sounds and music and sound effects and processing instruments you can already play. It might look like something that you need a PhD in computer science to understand how to do, but it really isn't. And as someone who does not have that and who also is not the most technically knowledgeable musician, I barely know scales or any theory at all, you can make music with this technology simply by experimenting and having fun. And that is what is so beautiful about it, is that it opens up itself to experimentation and exploration, and you find sounds that you would have never been able to make on your own, but that just appear to you as you're having fun and enjoying yourself. So I want to show at the end this last video that is a snip from a clip about a woman who uses her modular synthesizer with her garden. I hope that it can kind of give a last final statement onto how this technology can inspire and connect us with other parts of the world in music that maybe we didn't think about before. Thank you.
Bioemissions are the current that comes off of living things. The way that it works is that you have a plant and you put an electrode on it, which can be used to conduct that current coming off the leaf, and then it goes into an amplifier, and then the amplifier gets turned into binary code, and then the software takes that data and animates sound. is not a sample, it's all generative. It's like organic electronic music. The world I want to see is where we use technology to enhance our relationship with ourselves. We are nature, and we are ecology. Ecology is the interrelationship between all things. We are living things. And so I wanted to do something original. The landscaping and the designs that I make are because I want habitats to exist for myself and for other creatures.